I am interviewing Bonnie Marcus today. We are in for a treat. Bonnie Marcus writes over on Substack under Own Your Ambition, and she wrote the book, The Politics of Promotion, where she really talks about how women can navigate this office politic world so that they can actually get the jobs and the promotions that they deserve and that they want. Just a little bit about deconstructing patriarchy. If you're new here, we are doing the deep work of pulling back the different veils of being able to see patriarchy in every single facet of our lives, because it is the cultural foundation that our society is built on. It is in our medicine, in our health, it's in our politics, it's in our religion, but of course, it's in our homes, it's in our offices, it's in our relationships, it's in our parent-child relationships, it's in everything, and it's especially in the world of anything that's not labeled norm, which is very narrow. It's very small, right? So everything outside of that norm is deviant or divergent, like a neurodivergent person. Everything outside of that narrowly defined norm is divergent, which is a much larger field if you think about it. When we come together, things are going to happen. And that's what this channel is about. It's not just about peeling back the layers, but also about moving towards true equality and partnership, something that patriarchy was never set up to give us. And so we're gonna have to give it to ourselves. And it's something that's been around before patriarchy. Back to Bonnie, we had this incredible conversation that I've been waiting to post at the right moment back in June about ambition, narcissistic leaders, and why so many talented women get stuck in the middle of nowhere land, even though they're doing everything right. And of course, how patriarchy is infused into all of this. You'll hear us connect the dots between individual experience and systemic patterns in real time. It's the kind of conversation I wish I would have had when I was starting my career 25 years ago. Drop a comment below if you've ever experienced anything similar in your workplace. And if you feel brave enough, go ahead and share this story. And maybe we'll even get Bonnie back on here to address some of these comments that you leave us. All right, let's jump in.
We're live. Hello, welcome. We were just doing our audio check. Welcome to Deconstructing Patriarchy. We have the fabulous Bonnie Marcus on with us today. She writes Own Your Ambition, and she's going to be talking about her book, Politics. Oh gosh, I just forgot it.
The Politics of Promotion.
Promotion. And the subtitle?
How high-achieving women get ahead and stay ahead.
I love it. I love it. So Bonnie literally was probably the first person I connected with on Substack back in September, October. She had just joined, I think, and I just loved her topic of conversation and felt like it fit right in with what I was talking about. And here's a little personal story I was going to share about where I've come from and why Bonnie's work for me is so personally important. I was one of those, if you caught me from last week's video on Wednesday, an evangelical, right-wing, Tea Partier, probably a pre-MAGA, who did not believe women should be in power. I didn't believe Sarah Palin should have been, a vice president. I didn't believe Hillary Clinton, when she came up for power or for the presidency, that she should be voted in. That's how deeply entrenched in that dogma I was. And so I'm still having to unpack and deconstruct this idea through Bonnie's work of where I still have this internal DNA that I keep talking about from patriarchy, of this misogyny that keeps me out of even realizing how many challenges I've had as a woman, as a single mother.
You're fighting two battles.
Two battles.
Internal and external.
Yes, exactly. And so I just have to give you an excerpt, and I've stolen this, if that's the right word. I've borrowed it from her latest episode, her latest post, which came out last Wednesday, and it was called The Politics of Ambition, the same as her title there, How Women Can Claim Power Without Paying the Price. And so I've pulled some, I wanted to say all of it, but that would be too long for an intro. But this is just a little bit of her writing that is just so captivating and just really pulls you into these concepts being so applicable for us right now. So she says, ambition is complicated for women. While ambition in men is seen as natural, even admirable, ambition in women still triggers discomfort. We admire it in theory, but we resent it in practice. Ain't that the truth? Why does ambition provoke such a reaction? Because it signals a desire for power, and power, right here, y'all, remains one of the most gendered, guarded currencies in our society. I mean, I just have hair on my arms raising up, right? Like the goosebumps. Oh my gosh, that is so true. She goes on to say, women's pursuit of power continues to be upended by the traditional norms of gender, leadership, and influence. When women behave in ways that can contradict those expectations, they violate social norms and trigger backlash. And for women of color, the stakes are even higher. Studies show that Black and Latina women face additional scrutiny, often having their ambition interpreted as anger or entitlement.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to throw it over to Bonnie at this point in time and let her do her little introduction with the idea that we did with Larissa and Daniel the last 2 weeks of how they failed forward into being able to get to where they are, highlighting some of the failures. I'm really getting a lot of feedback, y'all. I'm so sorry I don't know if you all are hearing that. Okay. But
I'm
just
not hearing it
highlighting,
now.
okay, highlighting some of the failures that have gotten her to where she is today and what woke you up to patriarchy being an issue within this world, because not all of us are awake when we start our career.
Oh my God, no. And of course, I didn't start my career in business. I started as a kindergarten teacher.
Oh,
Okay.
that's right. Okay, I
And
remember
I
that.
often
Yes.
say I fell into business by accident. And mostly that happened because I got a divorce. I had 2 young kids. I needed to pay the bills, and being a kindergarten teacher didn't make it. So I started in a survival mode, right?
Hmm.
It wasn't like I had any big career aspirations to be an executive or anything like that. Um, but the interesting thing is, I started entry level, made it to the C suite, and I learned along the way.
Hmm.
I learned business, and I learned business management and um, how to be successful in the corporate environment, given the patriarchy, given the systemic bias, all that stuff, really through trial and error.
Yeah. So that failing forward idea. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the biggest failure what sparked me to write the book, The Politics of Promotion. And the original title of that book, by the way, which my publisher and I kind of threw back and forth and threw out the window, was Anatomy of a Blind Side.
Anatomy of a Blind Side. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Um,
I,
so,
I love it, but I get why Politics of Promotion is a much better title to go with. Yeah.
yeah, and wasn't there a movie like that, or
The Blind
something?
Side with Sandra
The
Bullock.
Blind Side. It was The Blind Side.
Yeah, with Sandra Bullock. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was doing really well in my career, and I had worked my way up at one point to be a assistant VP, and I had a big territory. I had 18 direct reports. I was um, totally focused on empowering them and being out with them face to face as much as I could. I traveled a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and our company went through a merger, and I got a new boss. And he was an asshole. I mean,
Mm.
he was misogynistic, he was a bully. So I just kept doing what I was doing, thinking, I have all the great numbers. I won all the awards, was sent on all the trips. I was doing really well. And I would be okay by avoiding him, just doing my job, right?
Great. Yeah. In a perfect
And
world.
they had a reorganization as a result of that merger, and there was an opening for a VP for me to move up. And I didn't have the relationships with him primarily,
Mm.
right?
He was your key in.
I didn't understand, even though he was obnoxious. My avoidance of him led to the fact that I was passed over for that promotion, even though I was the most qualified. They brought in a man from another territory to take that, and they offered me some lateral job, whatever. I
Yeah.
was devastated.
Slap
You
in the
know,
face. Yeah.
I started to calculate, how many millions of dollars I brought in for this company, and Um,
Right.
but I ended up writing the book because it's really common.
Mm-hmm.
for women to focus on their work, the myth of the meritocracy, head down, doing their work and thinking that alone is going to get them the credibility, the visibility, or a promotion, if you want it, or a raise if you want it. And so I wrote The Politics of Promotion because that's a lesson that I really wanted every woman who had ambition in the workplace to learn, and that is you need to pay attention.
Okay.
You need to be politically savvy. You need to understand what the workplace dynamics are, how decisions are made, who
Yeah.
has power and influence, and what it takes for a woman
Yeah.
to get
Well, and
ahead.
those aren't things. I mean, I do have a business degree, and I can tell you those are not things I was taught in a business setting, business degree. We did I do see a lot of Purdue's doing a lot of degree female empowerment stuff now, but I graduated in 99, way in a different century. So this type of stuff was not put into any type of business degree that I know of. I've never heard women say this. And so I think networking, that's the one thing I know that I failed at through school and even into my 20s is I just didn't network well enough. And I mean, even reading your stuff again this morning, I was like, oh my gosh, if I did have some managers early on that really saw my potential and tried to invest in me. A man came along and ruined the company for us before I got anywhere, though.
But I talk about not only is networking important, but strategic networking, because
Yes.
a lot of women aren't happy about networking, and I say it should be part of your job, but do it very strategically,
Right.
and that's identifying key stakeholders who
Yeah.
has power and influence over your career, just trying to build the visibility with them and
Right.
nurture those relationships. It's not just collecting business cards,
Right.
you
And
know?
this is one of the things I meant to put in the intro, so I apologize. But one of the things, y'all, that I love about Bonnie's work is as a life coach myself, she's so actionable. Every single post finishes with 3 to 5 different things that you can do, or 10 things, depending on what the type of topic she's talking about, of things you can try and implement in your own life in order to get the results that you want to get. So here's a question that just came up for me as I was listening. You had a difficult manager, so you avoided him. Now you've had all this experience. What would you say to that woman who has a difficult manager, who is the gatekeeper for her next promotion? Um, what are some key things she can do in order to engage in that relationship in a healthy way? Because I'm assuming this guy was probably a narcissist. And my tactic with narcissists is avoid at all costs.
I know.
Right? So in the
Yeah.
workplace, though, you can't do that because then you're losing opportunities. And here's another thing I learned from Bonnie, and I didn't even think about this, even having a business degree, is all of these opportunities that we're not just losing, but being passed over for are cumulative. So our ability to build the network, the promotion, the career, and the worth, the financial worth, is being limited because we're getting hung up on this concept of the broken rung. So we'll talk about that next. But yeah, what are some of the ideas of how can women
Well,
deal?
and it comes down to what I call a power network, right? Um, and who are the people who are in, say, we're talking about a specific situation now where your boss is kind of toxic and, but who is in his web of influence or her web of influence? In this
Mhm.
case, I'm talking about a man.
Right. It can be a
Who,
woman.
yeah, who do they look to when they're trying to make a decision? Who influences them? Because, it's almost like this circle thing
Hmm.
where that particular manager is in the center and his circle of influence those are the people you need to build relationships with. Those are the people who you need to um, have visibility with. They need to know your value proposition.
Hmm.
And I've written about this too. When you're not in the room, who can
Right.
speak for you? So it's also
Mm.
building some allies and champions.
Yeah.
Really important. And the best, of course, if you can get a sponsor, that's That's the gold card.
Yeah. And are you talking about a sponsor being mentor, or is that two different concepts for you?
Two different things. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. So definitely want to go into that. Um, the question that comes to me is, okay, so I've now looked at the web of people around this boss that's gatekeeping me. How do you approach that conversation so that you don't look like you're trying to brown nose or be the teacher's pet by bypassing them? Is there any specific ideas you can give women for that?
How do I approach the conversation with the people in that network?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of I would just imagine they'd be like, well, go to your manager, don't talk to me, go to your manager.
Well, it's not about an ask. It's
Okay.
about building and nurturing a relationship.
Okay.
So when you understand your value proposition, which is how your work leads to positive business outcomes,
Right.
you can then connect with people, find out what their objectives are, what they want and need, what they're hoping to achieve, and connect the dots between what you bring to the table and
Mhm.
what they want and need. How can you help them?
I love
So
that.
it's building and nurturing a relationship over time.
Yeah, which women are naturally, I mean, I know I'm stereotyping us here, but that's something we tend to be naturally groomed into doing anyways, or cultured into doing.
Yeah,
But it does
absolutely.
come a natural for a lot of us, right? So how do you create those opportunities to have those conversations? Like, do you invite them out for coffee or lunch, or what do you do? Yeah, any of the above? Other
Yeah,
ideas?
any of the above. Let's grab coffee with the idea. I really would love to know more about what you do,
Okay.
right? Because I'm over here in this department and I'm doing this, and it just dawned on me that I'm not really clear about what you do, and I'd love to know more. And then digging in more, and what are some of the challenges you face? Because maybe I can help. I
I
mean,
love it.
just building over time.
Yeah, you face. Okay. So like an informational interview is what I would call that, right? Where it's not
Well, it's got to be kind of casual too, like
right.
small talk.
Yeah. Okay. But the idea behind an informational interview is you're not going in to get the job. You're going in to learn more about this person and their
And
roles.
and Holly, you're not going in with an ask.
Right. Okay. So remember that. Okay. I'm writing all these notes down because I want to keep these for myself too. Not going in with the ask. Not going
Not right
and
away, unless you have a close relationship already.
okay.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I feel like we could dive into that more, but I want to come back to like what's the difference between a sponsor and a mentor?
A mentor gives you advice,
Okay.
and a sponsor takes action on your behalf.
Oh, that's huge difference. Okay,
A
so mentor.
sponsor is usually at least two levels above you.
Okay.
They have a lot of clout and respect in the organization, and it's a difficult relationship to get,
Yeah.
but it takes time to nourish that. You got to get visibility with them. They need to understand your value, all that kind of thing. But once they take action on your behalf, they open up doors for opportunities, promote you for some high profile assignments. Um, and it makes a huge difference because they have so much respect in the organization.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we got our first comment. Joanna, thank you. She says, I love this. I've had many mentors who turned into sponsors, just played the long game. So,
Yes.
Joanna, how long do you feel like some of these relationships took you to develop? Because I think having that framework of I'm not coming into the company and 6 months later I'm going to be, a VP. I have to be there, see what they need, build my relationships, and yeah, 1 year
1 year.
definitely or more. Okay,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Uh, when I go out and I do workshops or speak at an event, inevitably somebody will raise their hand and say, "How do I approach somebody and ask them to be my sponsor?" No, not unless you've got a really solid relationship, because
Yeah, yeah.
you have to
Well,
build it, as
yeah,
Joanna, over time.
yeah. Over time, build those relationships and trust. So it's really more of, again, I would just take all of that out of that. If it was me, I would be like, I'm just going to go in and look for people I want to connect with strategically And then start seeing where we have commonality, because that tends to be, I mean, this is one of the things I would do as an evangelical is, or an MLM person. Like, I've done all of that is
But we
I'm
are
looking at,
talking about commonality. I mean, it's a great place to start a conversation. But the point I really want to bring up, which gets to kind of the heart of our conversation, that men get a lot more sponsors than women. And there's a sponsorship gap, and it's much more difficult for women to get a sponsor. Maybe mentors, you get a lot of mentors and
Mhm.
former bosses or bosses, current managers. But to get that high level support is a lot more challenging for a woman. A
Okay.
lot of that, I think, has to do also with the um, similarity bias. Men like working with men.
Mhm.
There are more men in leadership
Yeah.
positions.
This goes back to your latest post where it says if a female name is attached to the position, it's not as favorable. Like, she's not seen as favorable as the man attached, the man's name, right? Like, I think it was Heidi as the example you used. And it's like,
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
famous case study. Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my gosh, like you feel, I mean, doing the work that I'm doing now, it's like, I'm just realizing how far along we are not, right? Like, for all the progress we feel like we've made as women, we are so not that far along. Like, there's all of these biases that we do go up against. So, um, let me go back a little bit. So, trying to make the connection. What was it really that manager coming on and promoting somebody else over you that kind of started waking you up to these systematic inequities within the corporate America, or is there other little things that woke you up as
Well,
well?
I mean, that was the big aha moment that I needed to change the way I was doing business, right? And change my priorities too.
Okay. But did you
Because
see it did you see it as something you were doing because you were innately female, or how did you make that connection that it had something to do with the genders? I guess is where I'm trying to go.
well, this new manager came from outside the company,
Okay.
and he was good buddies with our CEO, and
Oh.
they were part of the Good Old Boys network.
Mm, and so you just saw that. Okay. All right.
And women were viewed as less than.
Okay.
We were the doers.
Yeah.
And that was such an aha moment for me, Holly, because I realized, oh my God, Bonnie, you're a doer. You need to be more strategic, start being a leader, right?
Right.
But all of us were like doing, doing, doing. And that's not the way to necessarily be successful.
Right. Right. And so when you said you were managing these 18 people, do you remember the breakdown between men and women and like incomes? I mean, because that's a huge thing, right? Where people are doing the same work and not getting paid the same equitably.
Um, I don't remember, but the majority of these women positions were held by women.
Okay. Because it was the doer side. Interesting. Yeah. And isn't that interesting that they put you, a woman, in charge of women? Just to make that connection. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I will say that, it was a healthcare company and women seem to be dominant in those kinds of fields.
Okay.
Not at the necessarily at the high level.
No,
No,
no. Those were reserved for the men.
right.
Okay. So,
But
yeah.
to your point, I mean, recent research shows that women are making 85 cents to the dollar.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's for white women because it goes down for
Well,
black
it's
and
kind of it's supposed to be a yeah,
oh,
mostly white
conglomerate.
women.
Okay. Yeah. Because I have that somewhere down here. Because I really wanted to talk about that too. Because it's like, oh my gosh, our Latina sisters are really not, they're not on par even with us as white women. So that's something to be watching out for. I mean, there's just so much work to be done. Okay. So somebody has made that spot. So really, it comes back to, I want to talk about that value, knowing your worth. How do you encourage women to start that process of really not just knowing it up here, but knowing it on paper so that they can prove to people, this is my worth. This is what I contribute. This is what I can offer. and still staying within their own personalities, not trying to get,
Oh,
I guess,
yeah.
so
Well,
rational
first of
about
all,
it.
I have to say I hate elevator pitches.
Okay.
I mean, it's like somebody memorizing,
Yeah.
doesn't resonate with anyone. And there's a lot of inner work to be done to identify what that value proposition is. It's not your job description. I mean, you and I could have the same job description, and our value proposition would be different because it's how you do the work, it's how you make things happen, what your approach is. Um, and so it does take some work. It's
Yeah.
hard to do it on your own. And in the book, I give like a couple of exercises, but it's one of the primary things that I do right off the bat with my coaching clients
Awesome.
because it helps you to network,
Hmm.
to build these strong relationships, to get a job in an
Hmm.
interview,
Hmm.
to get a raise.
Yeah.
Basically, it's not memorizing something, but it's an understanding of how you get the business results you do.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the start of where you start everyone when they come to work with you.
For the most part, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not
But
cookie cutter. Yeah.
I love it. And I'm going to put in the text again. And the name of the book is The Politics of
Of
Promotion.
promotion.
So people have this politics. I can't type. Big finger syndrome. Oh God. Okay. Yeah, this is not working. Of promotion. Okay, so there's the name of the book, y'all, that we're talking about. So people know their value proposition. And then I'm just imagining when you know that, then that helps you also to start looking at the org chart and to strategically start being like, okay, I need to build a relationship here. I need to build a relationship here. Is that correct?
Yeah. In the book, there's a chapter on networking, but
Mhm.
again, it's very strategic. And I provide a network mapping exercise. It's like a sales plan where you rank the people A, B, C. What
Uh-huh.
kind of a connection are they? How much influence do they have over your career? And and rank how close you are,
Yeah.
your relationship. So then you look at, oh my God, here's a key decision maker. Um, they rank at number 10, which is the highest for influence over me.
Hmm.
But when I look at how close I am, that relationship's only a 1. So then you're very strategic about targeting people and building those relationships rather than throwing spaghetti on the wall.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. That's good. I think, where my mind goes, like, for someone like me, I have so many interests, but it sounds like when you get to that point of value proposition, you have to know you want to advance in this direction with your career. So, how can you encourage women to be able to even discover what's available to them in their given career or to look outside of the career for
Well,
something?
what's interesting is when you understand how you get great results, when you understand your value proposition, you can then see yourself in different opportunities. I could add value over here.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something that I can do in marketing and I haven't done that before. But once you have that understanding, it opens up
Okay.
opportunities.
So, your value proposition isn't necessarily based on your job description. It's not, it's who you
It should
are.
transcend your job description.
I love it. Okay, now I'm getting it. I'm getting it. Okay. So it's like when I look at a job description, I'm like, oh my God, I have those qualifications. And it's totally not an area I'd ever think of. That's because I understand my value that I can bring to people. Awesome. Okay. And then trying to figure out how to network so you can create those opportunities to express your value to people is that strategic networking.
Yeah.
I love it. So then we go on and okay, now we're up for the promotion. What is the next step someone can take, a woman or a minority, in order to really put themselves out there to go after that promotion without being aggressive?
Uh-huh. Um, well, of course, there's a difference between being assertive and aggressive.
Yep.
We know that. And, it's important for an ambitious woman who's looking for a promotion to really assess the landscape. the political landscape, and who is going to be her champion, who's going to be her ally, and perhaps who's going to be a naysayer.
Yeah.
And you need to build kind of relationships against that naysayer, but you definitely want some advocates
Yeah.
who can help you. Um, and then it's, it goes back to what we are talking about. It's like, building relationships, letting people get, and I often tell women to build a visibility plan. What does visibility look like?
Mm,
And credibility in your department.
yeah.
Maybe you set up a lunch and learn,
Mm,
and you organize it, and you bring in speakers, or you speak yourself, or you lead with your team and say what topics are of interest.
yeah.
Maybe you join an ERG, and take on some leadership,
What's an
roles.
ERG, dear?
Employee resource source group.
Okay. Okay.
A lot of them are around women's leadership, but what does visibility look like? And start to
Mm,
build that visibility and credibility over time.
yeah. Yeah. And that's something that, as women, we're used to being invisible. So the question of like, that's not even a question I would have
And
ever
raise your
asked.
hand in meetings, raise your hand and give your opinion.
Yeah.
And don't let anybody take credit for your work. And don't let them
That,
get away
yeah.
with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Make sure you're getting credit where credit's due. And that's not aggressive. I meant to say, how do we do this by seeming ambitious and not aggressive, right? Because women with ambition, as we were talked about when we opened this up, are seen as aggressive instead of seen as just ambitious. And we want to really, in your article, you talk about the desire needs to be not so much about my own gain, but the gain of what I can bring because of my value proposition to the company and to the industry and to, the
Yeah.
future
So
of
it
the world.
becomes not about me.
Right. It becomes
Be-
about what you
because
value.
then that's associated, oh, you just want more power.
Yeah.
No, I want to make a difference.
Yeah.
I want to bring about change, whatever the purpose is.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get to the big one then. All right. So we're up for this promotion or we're going into a new interview at a new company and we got to talk about our salary or income. What are some tips that you can encourage women to take before they go into the interview to know what their, what the value of the position is and not based on their gender, but their role. Does that make
Well,
sense?
you need
Yeah.
to do your homework before you go in an interview, or before you go in to a meeting to ask for a raise. I
Mhm.
mean, some companies, not very many, have wage pay transparency. Not many do, but some do. But it's doing some research. You know, even go to Chat GPT and
Okay.
say, I've got 7 years experience in this role. I'm a female of a certain age, working in this particular industry. I mean, with Chat
Yeah.
GPT, you're very specific, and you'd like to know what the pay range is in my geography.
Yeah. Because the location matters. Okay. Female, age, um, not so age, experience,
No, age, yes, age.
age as well.
Well,
Okay.
how many years, you've been working in that role?
Yeah. And then
And I
geography.
mean, you can put in even what your background is, other jobs you've had, but
Yeah. Okay. And then how do you encourage? So let's say I go into an interview and they totally want to lowball me because I'm a female. I can't obviously prove that, but the science proves that all the time for us. How do you encourage women to have that conversation and stand up for themselves and say, no, I'm not going to accept this. I know that this is what this role, is
yeah.
equivalent to.
First of all, you don't need to take the first offer.
Okay.
Sometimes we're like so excited. Oh my God, they're offering me a job. And in some cases, it's real, right? You've been looking
Mhm.
for a job for 2 years and somebody kind of, and just depending on your background,
Yeah.
that might be some place where you are willing to compromise.
Yeah.
Um, but if not, you don't need to accept that offer.
Okay.
And you could um, say that is there some way that we can work to come up with a package? So,
Mhm.
you know what? Maybe it's not the salary. And a lot of companies, they've got these different categories,
Mhm.
these different levels. You're a one, two, three, or four, and God forbid, you come. So, somebody, say you're applying for a director role, there may be a limit that is
Mhm.
below what you think is acceptable. I mean, can they change the title? I don't know.
Mhm.
But also put together a package of, if it's not the salary because of some constraints,
Yeah.
um, what else can you add to it in terms of benefits?
Mhm.
Maybe you get, a month vacation instead of 2 weeks. Maybe you get stock in the company.
Mhm.
Maybe try to be creative and come up with a package that will help you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so I would have never even thought of that, even having been in corporate America, that I might have room to negotiate. Because for me, health insurance isn't a huge priority because I do a lot of things holistically. So maybe I ask them to pay less in health insurance
And
and
it's a
more.
great point, Holly. It's
Yeah.
individual.
Yeah.
Maybe the stock is more important to you. You're looking long range rather than immediate. So I don't know.
Yeah. So really knowing that you women have the availability to customize a package for yourself. I mean, that's huge. That's huge. And can really take out that sting of being a woman and having to be up against that. So, yeah. Okay. So, where do we want to go from here? Any other tidbits before we wrap up that section of for women? I mean, that's like a highlight of what Bonnie offers in her executive coaching for women, just to highlight there.
Right. Oh, I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
I don't know if there are any questions from others. I
Mhm.
didn't see any yet.
Yeah, I was wondering if you saw them. I saw, yeah, Joanna has just been talking about how amazing. I mean, I think that again, just being in your own skin, seeing where you connect with people and doing that strategically. Like, hopefully that takes out a lot of the sting. I mean, I know for me, like, that's a natural thing to do, but I understand that there's a lot of introverts that don't do this. And
Well, it's
you
not even that. I mean, if people don't really own their value and own who they are and know, Holly, what they bring to the table, all
Mhm.
this, authenticity um, is really difficult to do because
Yeah,
you don't really know who you are. You don't really
yeah,
know the value.
yeah. And that's, again, not anything that we are educated to do, emotional intelligence in our culture, right? That's usually work that we stumble into because we've had a bad marriage or a bad relationship or a difficult child or difficult childhood or something in our society makes us go like, oh, I don't have the emotional toolbox to deal
Yeah.
with this. And then you start addressing your issues and going from there. And, we can't get into like, how can we change that whole entire schematic? But um, I think that if anything, if you take anything away from this, is really diving into her book and really doing the value proposition, because it seems like that just would, feed out into the rest of this so
It's
much
important.
easier. Yeah. Yeah. So let's dive. Let me look at the questions. Did you have any moments? I think we've kind of talked about all that. So yeah, okay. So I am looking at your let me just formulate the question as my mind is racing. Oh, yes. Okay. So I pulled this from your gender pay gap, which was entitled "The Gender Wage Gap Just Increased for the First Time in 20 Years." It barely made headlines, October 30th of 2024. And what I pulled out from there, again, is the comparative earnings. Black women earn 67 cents on the dollar, Indigenous women earn 59, and Hispanic women earn 51 cents for every dollar a white male earns. And this is what really got me. Although the gender wage gap is often discussed using dollars and cents, it greatly affects women's earnings in the long term because it compounds over
Yes.
life.
That could mean $500,000 over the course of your career,
Right? But
right?
then,
And it's important to know from the very first job you get, entry level.
Yeah.
If you're a woman, you're paid less than a man with the same kind of skills.
Right.
And then as you progress in your career, that just snowballs, right?
Right.
Um, and whether it's due to the time off you need to take, the motherhood penalty has huge financial um, um, implications. But women make up like 48%. They represent 48% of entry level hires,
Okay.
right? Now, if you move down move along, they only represent 39% at the manager level. So already they're losing
Yeah.
they're losing out.
Right.
And then and that I talked about that in the broken rung and all that kind of thing. The very first promotions go to men.
Right. Right. And
Um
that's
and then, when you get to the C level, it's only 20 some odd percent women represented.
right.
So
Okay. So
women
you
are
said,
dropping off.
and that's not the glass ceiling effect that we all know about, but the broken rung effect. So talk a little bit about that, please, because that was a totally new concept that I was not aware of.
Yeah. Because when we were in corporate, that wasn't something, that was necessarily coined. I only focused on two things, the glass ceiling and the glass cliff.
Yeah.
But this happens much sooner. And because it happens right in the beginning of a woman's career, the implications are huge.
Yeah.
Because right off the bat, men are promoted to manager positions and women are not. They're stuck.
They're stuck.
And we used to refer to being stuck as like the marzipan layer, right? When women aren't promoted and yeah,
Yeah. Like that
and
sticky.
men get those promotions faster.
Yeah. And do you think at that point it is because of the bro club or just the bias or because women aren't networking and don't know that they need to network? I mean, I know this is hypothetical, but all
Well,
these
I'd
elements.
rather shift the blame from women
Uh-huh.
because women are showing up and they're just as qualified as men.
Right.
But it's an unlevel playing field from the beginning, and I think that's really what's important.
Yeah.
Men get access to uh, better networking. And
Mm-hmm.
as we said before, even sponsorship, mentors, there's a similarity bias where
Yeah.
men prefer working with men, where women are considered less than, less valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yes, are there things that women can do,
Yeah.
to help mitigate some of that? Absolutely. I mean,
Right.
and that's the kind of work that I do.
Right.
But the systemic bias and the patriarchy is
Yeah.
there. After all, you look at the workplace, Holly, and you know this.
Yeah.
It was built by men for men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Right.
that's the point of my last post yesterday, or the post from this morning and last week, where, my argument that I'm waking up to right now is that gender equality will never happen within the system we have because it's the foundation, it's the building block of patriarchy. Gender inequality is the foundation of this. So it's a double-edged sword. We have to continue to try to get our rights and fight for those rights, but we also have to realize the system has to change. Right.
Yes.
And I don't think approaching it just from gender equality standpoint will change it since it's the building block. I don't know if that makes sense to people, but
No, but I mean, that's the point I was trying to make is
yeah.
that um, we can't say, well, women don't network enough.
Yeah. Because they're
You
good
know,
at networking.
yeah, I mean, I want to shift the blame. It's not women,
Right.
it's the system.
It's the system. Yeah.
System. And can we improve certain things? Absolutely.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
we're still working within the confines of the patriarchy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's the really important point just to be aware of because you might do everything that Bonnie has suggested and then some and still not get that promotion that you want. And it could be because somebody else is better qualified. and maybe a man. You never know. But it also
But
could
is
be
he
because
better
of the
qualified
system.
because he's a man?
Right. Exactly. So, yeah, so it's just definitely a struggle, but I just love all of the tidbits. Again, we have a couple new people on here. If you've never read Bonnie's work, please go read it. Everything she says is just like dripping with wisdom and guidance. And she always ends all of her posts with actionable items that you can take. And it's not like you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's more of like pick one and just try it out, move it out, like try it on like new clothing and see if it fits you. And then if that doesn't work,
Well, there's no,
with the
to your point, there's no cookie cutter approach
Mhm.
necessarily.
Yeah,
So, I'll offer some coaching, I'll offer some advice, but then you have to say, well, what's different about my workplace,
right,
right? What are the dynamics here? And even if I move to a different department, the dynamics could be different. So, like,
right,
what's going on here and
right.
how are decisions made here? We really need to pay attention.
Attention. And that goes back to that strategic sponsorship, mentorships, networking. It's almost like you have a bonus job. I'm going to call it a bonus job. Like you've got your own job and career that you're doing, but you also have this bonus job of paying attention to all of these other things within the organization because it's an organization. It is alive, it's breathing, it's real, and it's got its own intentions
And it changes.
and it
It's
changes.
constantly changing. And it's also it's really a mistake to look at the org chart and say, "Oh, this person up here in the C-suite has all the power." Not
Not
necessarily.
necessarily.
If you
Interesting.
pay attention, you'll see, well, gee, doesn't happen that way here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's almost like I'm watching, for the second time, Younger. I don't know if you know that MTV series that's now on Netflix. And this gets into ageism and motherhood penalty, right? This single mother, newly divorced, been out of the workforce, can't get back into the workforce, so she lies about her age. But I'm just thinking about this because it's a lot of what you're talking about is she's really what I think makes her character so good is that she is good at networking and she is good at paying attention and she's good at making those relationships within the organization, right? And I think
So part of the patriarchy is lookism,
lookism, what is that?
that women are evaluated based on how they appear, how they look.
Okay, so a different
And
version.
that's intertwined with ageism,
Okay,
right?
okay, right. Yeah,
So that works against young women
yeah.
because they look too young. I was called in by a large financial institution once to coach a high potential female who's now
Mhm.
way up there on the leadership because she looked too young.
Yeah,
She dressed too young. She needed to change her hair. The way she communicated with a question at the end, all those kinds of things. So the way women are perceived, and then as we start to show signs of aging,
yeah,
then we're totally right.
right,
Um, we're not only become invisible, but we're viewed as less competent.
right. And less
Less.
reliable. And
So you have it at both ends. Young women less capable, less
Mhm.
competent. Older women, same thing.
Yeah. Well, and then you add in if you've got children, you're less reliable. If you're a single mother, you're even more less reliable and less willing to work. That's the biases that we're coming up against. So let's do a little case study. Are you up for a case study?
Sure.
This just came to me. Again, I'm assuming that a lot of people that join me on my deconstructing patriarchy are probably coming from my background, which is evangelical, teaching me that I'm not worthy, that I am the second sex, that I'm less than men. Trying to get out of that. Maybe now we're a single mother. We were a stay-at-home mom and we haven't worked. Our resume isn't up to date. And now we are in this dire straits of needing to get work. What would be your first point or piece of advice that you would give somebody in that situation, knowing all these different pieces of the puzzle that interplay with each other?
I would say, I mean, my gut reaction is that you're not really ready to find a job or a career. I mean, you can
Mhm.
find a job,
Okay.
But if you're looking for more of a career, you're not really ready to do that until you do some inner work,
Okay. That makes
which
sense.
is
Yeah.
really who you are, what you bring to the table, what you can, how you can help an organization reach their objectives. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I will say to my clients when they're looking at a job um, um, opening, like, well, how long is this a new role for the company? Um,
Mhm.
what's the objective of this position? What do they need? What are they looking for? And doing that kind of homework along with the inner work of what you can bring is
Mhm.
really important because then in that interview, in your cover letter, whatever,
Yeah.
you connect the dots.
Yeah. Let me go at a different angle then, like, because this is one of the things that frustrated the hell out of me when I had to go back and, I mean, I took, unfortunately, not as brilliant as you, but somebody in Silicon Valley was putting together, a workshop for moms returning to the workforce. And she said we could not put that we'd left the job market. We kind of had just to ignore it. And we couldn't use
When was this? How long ago was this?
that would have been like 2014, 15, 16, somewhere around there. And she also didn't want us to, because I always treated myself as the CEO of my family. Like I was the CEO I called myself the family manager. I was a CEO, right? I'd managed the
Yeah.
finances, the budget, all the to-do lists, made sure the activities were going off without a hitch. I, did all the meal plan. Like, I mean, I managed everything. And so,
And so I would say, as your coach,
yeah,
I would ask you, what does that say about you?
right.
And does that management of all these different things at once, all the balls in the air,
Yeah,
how can you then help an organization?
right.
You see how connecting the dots? And I would not disguise leaving the workplace.
Yeah, thank you.
I would use no, I would position it as a benefit. I would
Right.
position it that you learn these skills. Also, maybe you did some volunteer work. I mean, there are
Right.
all kinds of leadership roles involved in nonprofits, different
PTAs.
organizations.
Yeah.
Definitely talk about them, or at least step up if you're working for a nonprofit. Well, can I lead a committee on such and such?
Yeah. And that was like, that's exactly the point I made. And she actually kicked me out of her class. She's
Oh
like, I
well,
don't think
you
you need
can come
me.
to my class.
Right. Please go to mine. But that was the point I was hoping you would make is like women, you keep toddlers from killing themselves and each other. That is applicable skills in the workplace, right? If you can help emotionally manage toddlers who have no emotional skills. I know a lot of adults are like toddlers with no emotional skills, but at least they can talk and at least you can ask them questions, right? That is a skill set you can put on your resume and make it correlate to the workforce. So just because you're an unpaid labor woman doesn't mean you're not
Yeah.
building and working on your resume. So really sit down with that critical eye and be like, I've had to do event planning because
But
I plan
Callie,
all this.
that's all a part of owning it
Yeah, exactly.
and not
Own
buying.
it.
Own it.
Yeah,
Don't downplay it. Oh,
yeah,
anybody can do that.
yeah.
No, anybody can't do that.
No,
And the way you do it is different.
right.
Um, and once you do that work and get that in your head, you'll be able to write out or speak to it
Yeah,
better. Yeah.
yeah. And that just brings me to probably my last question here is own your ambition. Why, how did that title come up and why is that so vital for you to communicate to women?
It's empowering.
Mhm.
It's motivational. Um, at one point I was considering the politics of ambition as the title.
Mhm.
Um, and one of my followers said, own your ambition is so much more motivational and action oriented.
It is, yeah.
And I think it's a great starting point.
Yeah.
No matter where you are in your career or maybe you're not in the corporate arena or working right now. Owning who you are
Yeah.
Owning your value is really, really important in not only at work, but in your relationships. Think about it. If you really know and understand who you are and the gifts that you bring,
Mm-hmm.
how that helps you in a
Yes.
relationship so that you aren't a doormat.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, my mind's racing again because there's so many connections because women coming out of abusive situations have it, no fault of their own because we know narcissists are going to be narcissists and they're going to abuse regardless. But part of the piece of most of us is that we allow ourselves to be invisible. We allow ourselves not to speak our truth. We allow ourselves not to voice our ambition or our truth or have value, right? We become that doormat. So it's the same skills that you're learning to get out of evangelical faith, out of toxic abusive relationships are the same skills that we'll need to take into corporate America with us.
I mean, one of the most popular newsletters I've done so far is the 9 ways we give our power away without even knowing it,
Mhm. Yes, I love that one.
because we don't.
Yeah. Yeah. What's one of your what give me the top 3 of your out of that list if you remember. Do you want me to look really quick?
That one, I think the 9 ways
Yeah.
we give our power away.
Oh, but I mean
Um,
like the top 3 within that 9 or just one of
the
them.
top 3
Yeah.
ways we give our power away.
Yes.
We over apologize.
Stop
We
apologizing.
Our default response is, "I'm sorry," when
Mhm.
it's not necessary. Sometimes it's appropriate,
Yeah.
but a lot of times it isn't.
Yeah.
We oh gosh, I just, look,
Let me
we
look.
use minimizing qualifying language. Like,
Yeah.
I just wanna say that, maybe you should consider this instead of the other option because, all those qualifying words like "I just" and "maybe" and all that, um, is takes the power out of we need to speak directly, we need to ask without ending things in a question,
Yeah.
and eliminate all those what I call minimizing language.
Yeah.
And, I guess another one would be, that we let others take credit.
Yeah. What woman has not been in that position? I talk
Well,
about that, I think, in my
yeah,
latest.
I
Yeah.
will coach you how to get out of it.
Yeah. Take others taking credit. Yeah. Um, hold on. I have to go back and think my thought here. So let's, I don't know, like it's 2:58. So I know we're supposed to be wrapping up, but now my mind is like, but let's talk about this little bit if we can. Um, because it's going to feel for most women, because we're cultured to be invisible, voiceless, less than, it's going to feel very unnatural. And all of what I call, kind of the triggers in your mind are begin going off. Like, I can't do that. I can't do that's not right. That I'm not evolutionarily like that. Right. And what I teach people to do is to realize instead of trying to shame yourself back into that position of powerlessness, realize the story is wrong. And the more you address the story or the system that's wrong, the easier and more gentler it will feel because you're going to feel an embodied, like, oh. So, that's how I teach that. How do you help women realize it's going to feel uncomfortable at first to take on some of these leadership qualities,
Well, I
but keep
think,
going?
a good place to start, is to keep a diary.
Love it. Yep.
So, what thoughts do come up, you
Hmm.
know? I never should have opened my mouth because I
Hmm.
should wait to be recognized, like all this stuff. Just write it all down and then look at it and challenge it and say, "Really?
Hmm. Where did that come from?
Where did that come from?" Not only that, but if I believe that,
Hmm.
what does that mean? How does that hold me back?
Yeah. If I believe
And
that.
then take the power back from
Yeah.
those words, from those beliefs.
Yeah. And how do you encourage people to take the power back and make it feel natural for them?
it's the aha moment when you look at this over
Okay.
time. You look at this diary and you
Yeah.
say, is that true?
Yeah.
First of all, is that true? And how is that affecting my life right now?
Mhm. Yeah.
How is it holding me back from being a stronger woman, from
Yeah.
in a relationship or at work?
And at work and getting the things that not only you want, but you deserve, right? And being okay with that idea that I deserve this, not because I'm a woman, but because I worked hard in
Yeah.
spite of being a woman, I guess, right? So, oh my gosh. Okay, I feel like we can keep going, but I want to honor people's time, and we will definitely have you back and talk more. But yeah, any little last golden nuggets that you want to depart in the wisdom category for us?
Oh, wow. Um, I guess I'd go back to, own your value,
Mm-hmm.
own your ambition, own your talent,
Yeah.
whatever that talent is, and your value.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you are unique, you're not like anyone else.
Right. And and I would just say get Bonnie's book, The Politics of no, the what
Yes, politics of promotion.
thank you. I can't keep things in my head because I'm going through perimenopause. The Politics of Promotion and do the work because that's again, I'm actually putting the toxic self-help world together for this week. That's my release on how much of the self-help world is toxic. And it's like, you can't just stay in your head and be like, I'm a value because I'm a value, right? You've got to get things on paper because your mind will start seeing what you're putting on paper, making those connections from a
And
previous
ask other
job.
people for feedback when you put it down.
Yes. People love to talk about
Is
you.
this the way you see me?
Yeah.
And they'll say, wow, you didn't put this in. You didn't do.
Yeah. I've done those a few times and they always make me cry because people see things I don't see about myself. Beautiful. All right. I think we've hit a lot. I have a lot of notes. So I will put the replay out as soon as it's ready with some of my notes. And of course,
Great.
Bonnie, how else besides Substack can people find you if they want to coach with you? What's the process for that?
They can check out my website, Bonnie Marcus leadership.com,
Okay.
or they can email me,
Okay. And you can
Bonnie
get
Marcus1 at Gmail.
Marcus1 at Gmail. Yeah, I think I have that as well. So awesome. Well, Bonnie, thank you so much for being with us from the sunny
Thank you. I
West
really
Coast.
enjoyed the conversation with you.
Me too. Me too. I know. I think I might have to start doing 2 hours because I feel like I'm just getting into the groove with people when the 1 hour hits. So next time we'll see if we can do a longer conversation. But all right. So much love for all. And we'll see you next week. We'll be with Marianne from All Things. No, she's
Fem Health.
Fem Health Tech Inc., I think is the name. I think she's changed it a couple times, talking about how men have been made the norm in all areas, but especially within healthcare, and women are the deviants, and why we're lagging in healthcare innovation and
Really
health.
important. Really
Yeah.
important.
So all of this work is so important. I'm going to have like a round table with all of you because I think all of these
Yeah,
fun.
you and I actually talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah. And I
About
know
a
I
panel
mentioned
or
it.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned it again to Larissa as well last week after our book club. So, all right, y'all. If you have any future questions for us, drop them in the comments of the post once this is up and we'll get them over to Bonnie. But just go to Bonnie. Just go make sure you're subscribing over on Bonnie's Substack and her getting all of her wisdom and have her as your coach if you need some help.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Holly.
My pleasure, y'all. So much love. Bye.
Bye.